You think you know about war criminal executions. Clean, quick. The rope snaps and it's over in seconds. That's what they tell you in the history books. But the execution of Albert Forster didn't go that way. A Nazi Gauleiter who transformed Danzig into a killing ground for 6 years, and when his time came, it wasn't some Hollywood ending. It was something else entirely. The brutality wasn't in the method. It was in everything that came before. The weight, the cell, the courtyard. The way justice works when the world has seen what you've done. Let me walk you through what actually happened on February 28, 1952, and you'll understand why this execution was more brutal than you ever imagined. A child is born inside a prison, not as an inmate. His father runs the place. Albert Maria Forster grows up with iron bars as his playground. Middle-class upbringing, average student, nothing remarkable. By 1920, he's got his diploma from the Humanistisches Gymnasium, and he's headed for a banking career. 2 years of training. Gets hired by Further Bankhaus Bruckner. Everything's normal until November 7th, 1923. He joins the Nazi Party. Member number 1924 joins the SA the same day. Young, eager, looking for something bigger than counting money in Bavaria. And he finds it. Too much time with the brown shirts, not enough with the ledgers. So Forster pivots. Becomes a street hustler for Der Stürmer, Julius Streicher's anti-Semitic newspaper, going door to door, selling hate. Streicher notices him, not because Forster's smart, because he's loyal. Because he'll do the work without questions. February 1925, Munich. Hitler refounds the Nazi Party after the ban. Forster's there, shaking hands, making impressions. By April 5th, he's officially back in. May 12th, 1926, he joins the SS, number 158. Founds the SS group for Nuremberg Firth. Climbs, speaks, organizes, and Hitler notices. September 14, 1930, age 28. Elected to the Reichstag, youngest deputy in the House. 10 days later, on October 15th, Hitler makes him Gauleiter of Danzig, the Free City. The pressure point between Germany and Poland, and that's where Albert Forster stops being a nobody bank clerk and becomes something worse. Population around 370,000 in 1930. For the Nazis, it's a knife pointed at Poland, and Forster's the hand holding it. He lands in Danzig as an outsider, replacing Arthur Greiser, who everyone loves. Forster doesn't care. November 1st, 1930, he launches the Danziger Beobachter, the party paper, starts recruiting. By December 1932, membership jumps from 1,310 to 9,519. SA numbers go from 150 to 1,500. He's building an army in plain sight. May 9th, 1934, he marries Gertrude Dietz in Berlin. Hitler and Rudolf Hess are the witnesses. The wedding's at the Reichskanzlei. That's how close he is to power now. Honorable citizen of both Fürth and Danzig, party golden boy. But underneath the speeches and the medals, there's something cold, something waiting. 9 days later, September 1st, German forces attack Westerplatte, the Polish post office. Forster proclaims Danzig's annexation to the Reich while the shells are still falling. By October 8th, the Free City ceases to exist. October 26th, Forster becomes Gauleiter and Reichsstatthalter of the new Reichsgau Danzig West Prussia. 2,179,000 people. 1,494,000 of them Polish. Forster's got orders from Hitler. Make it German, by any means. And he takes that seriously. The message is direct. Remove all dangerous Poles, all Jews, all Polish clergy. Immediate action. October 19th, Grudgens. He's screaming at local Nazi officials. Not spilling enough Polish blood. That's a quote. Witnesses write it down. He's not subtle. He wants results and he wants bodies. By November 1939, the region's declared Judenfrei, Jew-free. 30,000 Jews from the annexed Polish territories are murdered or deported. Gone, erased. And Forster signs off on everything. It's the best way to support our work. Also, comment from which city you're hearing this from. This script is researched and factual, using sources from Dieter Schenk's 2000 book, Hitler's Man in Danzig, published by Dietz in Bonn, and the archival trial records held at the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum from the Polish Supreme National Tribunal case file GK 196, which includes 17 volumes of preliminary evidence and 10 volumes of trial proceedings from April 4th to April 29th, 1948. These aren't secondary sources or Wikipedia summaries. These are primary trial documents, testimonies from legal and medical witnesses, German administrative records, census data from 1939 Gdańsk, and lists of named victims. Schenk, a former Bundeskriminalamt director, spent years in Polish Secret Service archives that were sealed until June 1999. Now back to the information. Between late October 1939 and spring 1940, Germans turned it into a killing ground. First executions probably October 21st, according to historian Zygmunt Milczewski. Professor Andrzej Gąsiorowski says the first victim was Father Ignacy Błażejewski on October 24th. Either way, the bodies start piling up fast. 3 groups. First wave, about 2,000 Poles and Kashubians from Gdańsk, Pomerania. Arrested in September and October, held in prisons at Wejherow, Puck, Gdańsk, Kartuzy, Kościerzyna. Intellectuals, teachers, engineers, priests. Second wave, the big one, 10,000 to 12,000 people, Polish, Czech, German families, shipped from other areas. Includes Polish workers who'd migrated to Germany for jobs in the interwar years. Railroad workers see the transports arrive. They count. They remember. Third wave, 1,200 mentally ill patients, maybe 2,000 depending on the source. Transported from hospitals at Stralsund, Ueckermünde, Altentreptow, Lauenburg. Total dead at Piaśnica, between 12,000 and 14,000 people. By 2009, investigators have confirmed names for about 600 victims. The rest are just bones in the woods. Who gives the orders? Forster. He's at the Prussinski Hotel in Wejherowo, giving a speech to ethnic Germans. The Volksdeutscher Selbstschutz, local Germans with Polish citizenship who've been armed and organized. He tells them we have to eliminate the lice-ridden Poles, starting with those in the cradle. In your hands, I give the fate of the Poles. You can do with them what you want. The crowd outside chants, kill the Polish dogs, death to the Poles. And they do. The Selbstschutz participates in early Piaśnica killings. Later they join police and SS formations. Keep going until fall 1940. Einsatzkommando 16 is there too. Units from the 36th Regiment of SS. It's organized, it's systematic. And Forster's fingerprints are on every document. He doesn't pull triggers himself, he doesn't need to. He creates the system, he removes the limits, he punishes people for not being brutal enough. He's got a feud with Arthur Greiser, his old rival now running Forthegau next door. Greiser's a purist, checks bloodlines, follows Himmler's 4-class Volksliste strictly. Forster doesn't care about the rules. He needs farmers, he needs workers. So he tells Poles with any claim to German ancestry, real or imagined, that they're German now. Nazi Party workers go door to door, interview locals. Anyone who says they've got German blood gets accepted. No documentation required, no verification. Just say yes and you're in. Greiser complains to Himmler. Himmler confronts Forster. Forster ignores them both. Because Hitler said each Gauleiter runs his territory his own way. And Forster's got Hitler's ear. But don't mistake this for mercy. Refusing Germanization means deportation to the general government, or Stutthof concentration camp, or worse. By the war's end, 60,000 dead in the region, 170,000 expelled. Some estimates say 35,000 expelled. Forster himself reports 87,000 evacuated by February 1940. The numbers vary, but the pattern's clear. Poles leave or they die. September 1944, he gets command of the Volkssturm in Danzig, West Prussia, the last-ditch militia. He's Reich Defense Commissioner from November 16, 1942, consolidates power. By the time the Red Army's closing in, Forster's still in Gdańsk, still giving orders. March 27, 1945. Soviet forces are at the gates. Forster disguises himself as a common soldier, gets on the steamship Zapad, sails to Grömitz on the Lübecker Bucht. He's running, trying to disappear into the British occupation zone, thinks he can blend in. Thinks nobody will recognize a Gauleiter when he's wearing a private's uniform. He's just another displaced German military personnel. July 1946. Someone checks the records. Realizes Forster's not just another Wehrmacht grunt. He's a Gauleiter, SS Obergruppenführer, war criminal. They transfer him to the British internment camp at Neuengamme. August 10, 1946. British military government hands him to Poland. Extradition. He's flown to Warsaw, locked in the central prison. August 25th, he's charged with mass murder by the Polish National Supreme Court. September 14th, transferred to Gdańsk prison. And that's where the wait begins. Rzeszów district. The courtroom's packed. British Pathé films it. Crowds outside. Forster arrives in a truck. Gets out, walks in, looks thin, hair grown out, no more SS precision. The tribunal sits, judges in place, Forster in the dock. The prosecution presents 904 documents, reports, directives, affidavits, interrogations, maps, photographs, testimony from Polish witnesses, legal experts, medical experts, lists of killed Poles, lists of people enrolled in the Volksliste, census data from 1939, German documents about language restrictions, about Polish citizens, about Germanization of Polish children, Forster's own speeches, his personal documents, press clippings, everything, 17 volumes of preliminary evidence, 10 volumes of trial proceedings. And Forster just sits there, unapologetic. April 29th, 1948. Verdict. Guilty of crimes against humanity, guilty of mass murder, sentence, death by hanging. His wife hasn't heard from him since 1949. She doesn't know if he's alive. June 1951, he's turned over to the Polish security service, Urząd Bezpieczeństwa. His trail goes cold. People start speculating. Maybe the sentence was commuted. Maybe he's doing life instead. Maybe he cut a deal. For years, it's classified. A departmental secret. Nobody talks. But the files are there, locked away. February 21st, 1952, the Polish president denies clemency. Final. No appeal. No reprieve. Forster's moved from Gdańsk to Mokotów prison in Warsaw. Rakowieska Street, the place where they execute political prisoners and war criminals. February 28th, 1952, 1400 hours, 2 p.m. Nearly 7 years since he fled Gdańsk. Nearly 4 years since the guilty verdict. 1,591 days of waiting in a cell, knowing the rope's coming, but not when. That's the brutality nobody talks about. The waiting, the isolation, watching other prisoners come and go. Wondering every morning if today's the day. His wife doesn't know he's here. She's in Germany, thinking he might still be alive somewhere. The gallows are ready. Polish hangman. No ceremony, no speech. This isn't Nuremberg with the international press and the dramatic final words. This is a prison courtyard in communist Poland. Functional, efficient, cold. Forster's led to the noose, ropes placed. The drop. 1,400 hours, 30 minutes, 14:30. The execution's over. Time of death recorded. Albert Maria Forster, born in a prison, dies in one. Hanged for crimes against humanity, for mass murder, for genocide. Maybe he's serving life. She doesn't know. 1954, 2 years after he's dead. Someone finally tells her, "Your husband was executed." February 28th, 1952. Been gone 2 years already. That's the brutality. Not just the rope, the bureaucratic cruelty. The way information gets buried. The way the state holds all the cards and families get nothing. Until June 1999, Forster's execution is treated as a departmental secret in Poland. 47 years after it happens. Then Dieter Schenk, former Bundeskriminalammt director turned historian, gets access to the Polish Secret Service archives, the files that nobody's seen. He publishes Hitler's Mann in Danzig in 2000, documents everything, the crimes, the trial, the execution, the exact time. 1,400 to 1,430 hours. Hanged in the courtyard of Warsaw Mokotów prison. Death certificate from the Polish security service. Photographic proof. No more speculation. No more rumors about commuted sentences or secret deals. He's dead. Has been since February 28th, 1952. Not just for Piaśnica, for all of it. The camps, the deportations, the Germanization program that destroyed Polish identity across Danzig, West Prussia. Historian Christopher Browning calls it an orgy of murder and deportation. That's not rhetoric, that's documentation. Camp records from Stutthof. Over 85,000 executed or dead from starvation, disease, mistreatment. 52,000 Jews sent there. 3,000 survive. Winter, 1939 to 40. Between 12,000 and 16,000 murdered at Piaśnica alone. And Forster's administration authorized every phase, signed every order, created the structure that made it possible. Richard Hildebrandt, higher SS and police leader in Pomerania, also gets death sentence from Polish court in Bydgoszcz. Hanged March 10th, 1951. Max Henze, SS Brigade Führer, police president in Bydgoszcz from October 12th, 1939. Hanged March 10th, 1951. Same day as Hildebrandt. The net closes on everyone involved. Hanging's been around for centuries. Quick drop, broken neck, unconsciousness in seconds. That's the theory. But Forster's execution wasn't brutal because of the rope. It was brutal because of the weight. The weight of 12,000 to 14,000 bodies at Piaśnica. The weight of 30,000 Jews murdered or deported by November 1939. The weight of 60,000 to 170,000 Poles expelled or killed across 6 years. The weight of knowing you created a system that turned human beings into statistics. And then spending nearly 4 years in a cell, waiting for the consequences. No escape, no appeal, no deals, just waiting. That's the psychological torture. The certainty of execution combined with the uncertainty of timing. Wake up every day. Is it today? Tomorrow? Next week? Next year? The guards don't tell you. The court doesn't update you. You just wait. And while you're waiting, you know what you did. You remember the speeches, the orders, the complaints that your subordinates weren't killing enough Poles. You remember standing at the Pruszyński Hotel, telling ethnic Germans to eliminate Poles starting from the cradle. You remember the reports crossing your desk, the body counts, the deportation numbers, the census data showing Polish population dropping like stones. He wasn't possessed. He was a mediocre student who found a cause that gave him power. He was loyal. He was ruthless. He was willing to do what others hesitated at, and that made him valuable to Hitler, made him Gauleiter at 28, made him governor of 2 million people, made him untouchable for years because he had Hitler's protection. But Hitler's dead by April 30, 1945, and suddenly all that protection means nothing. Forster's just another war criminal in a cell. His trial documents filled 27 volumes. 14 reels of microfilm at the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. Researchers can access them, can read the testimonies, can see the evidence. The German administrative documents restricting Polish language use, the lists of children Germanized, the names of victims, the photographs, the maps showing execution sites. It's all there, preserved, cataloged, undeniable. And it all points to one man coordinating the destruction of Polish and Jewish life across Danzig, West Prussia, Albert Forster. Bodies removed from the gallows. Prison officials record the death, file the paperwork, seal the files. And for 47 years, most of the world doesn't know the details. Some historians think he died in prison of natural causes. Some think his sentence was commuted. Raoul Hilberg's 1961 book says executed in 1948. That's wrong. Wikipedia has the date wrong for years. It takes Schenk's 2000 publication to set the record straight. 1952, February 28th, Mokotów Prison, Warsaw, hanged. The documents prove it. The death certificate from Polish Secret Service confirms it. The timeline's clear. Arrested May 27th, 1945. Extradited August 10th, 1946. Charged August 25th, 1946. Trial April 4th to 29th, 1948. Sentenced to death April 29th, 1948. Held for nearly 4 years. Clemency denied February 21st, 1952. Executed February 28th, 1952. Pronounced dead 14:30 hours. Wife informed 1954. Because the 12,000 to 14,000 bodies in those forests were Polish citizens. Polish intellectuals, Polish priests, Polish teachers, Kashubians who'd lived there for generations, Jews who thought they were safe, Czechs who ended up in the wrong place. German mental patients who were expendable, all of them dead because Forster wanted to make the region German, wanted to erase Polish identity, wanted to prove to Hitler that he could deliver results. And he did deliver, just not the kind that let you sleep at night, the kind that put you on trial in front of survivors, in front of families who lost everyone, in front of a nation that wants justice. Railroad workers who saw the trains, foresters who found the bodies, German defectors who kept records, medical examiners who inspected remains. They present Forster's own words, his speeches, his directives, his complaints about insufficient violence. They show the administrative structure. How orders flowed from Forster's office to the Selbstschutz, to the police, to the SS, to the Einsatzkommandos. How he coordinated with military commanders. How he reported progress to Berlin. How he built a machine that ran on blood. And Forster sits there, listening, unapologetic. He doesn't claim ignorance. He doesn't say he was following orders. He doesn't break down and beg forgiveness. He just maintains that what he did was necessary. That Poles and Jews were subhuman. That elimination was justified. The tribunal isn't swayed, guilty on all counts, death by hanging. But the sentence sits, 3 years and 10 months between verdict and execution. That's the brutality, living with the certainty but not the date. Hanged July 21st, 1946 in Poznan, 2 years before Forster's trial even starts. Karl Hermann Frank, higher SS and police leader in Bohemia, Moravia, hanged May 22nd, 1946 in Prague. Albert Forster outlives them by years, sitting in cells, first Gdańsk, then Warsaw, waiting. The psychological toll of that wait is its own form of execution. Slow, grinding, relentless, no hope of escape, no possibility of reversal, just time stretching out, knowing the ropes at the end of it. And when it finally comes on February 28th, 1952, it's almost a relief. Almost. Because then you're just gone. No legacy except the bodies. No redemption arc. No last-minute revelation that changes the narrative. Just a war criminal hanged for crimes against humanity. Name recorded, death certified, files sealed for decades. Sometimes the wife doesn't find out for 2 years. Sometimes the files stay classified for 47 years. And sometimes the brutality isn't in the method. It's in the waiting, the isolation, the certainty without timing, the knowledge that everything you built is gone, the power, the titles, the protection. The Gauleiter of Danzig, West Prussia, reduced to a prisoner in a cell, waiting for a date he doesn't know. That's what happened to Albert Forster. Not a Hollywood execution with dramatic music and final words for the cameras. A bureaucratic execution in a communist prison. Efficient. Final, and mostly forgotten until a German historian dug through Polish secret archives and found the proof. 1400 to 1430 hours. February 28, 1952, courtyard of Mokotów prison. 1 war criminal, 1 rope, 1 death certificate. And 12,000 to 14,000 ghosts from Piaśnica who finally got their answer. The kind of document that ends speculation, the kind that closes the file. And it shows something about how states handle their darkest chapters. Poland kept it secret for decades, not because they were ashamed, because it was classified. Because Cold War Poland didn't publicize internal security operations. Because the details of executions at Mokotów weren't public information. Hundreds of people died there. Political prisoners, war criminals, resistance fighters. The prison's got its own history of executions. March 1st, 1951. 7 members of Wolność i Niezawisłość anti-communist resistance executed there. All of them fought Nazis during the war, then fought communists after. The state didn't distinguish. Forster's just one name in a long list of people who died in that courtyard. But his crimes were different. His body count was different. His legacy was written in mass graves and burned villages and empty synagogues and families torn apart. They named dates: October 21st, 1939, October 24th, 1939, September 10th to 15th, 1939, October 19th, 1939, November 1939. They named victims: Father Ignacy Błażejewski. 2,000 Poles and Kashubians from Gdańsk, Pomerania. 10,000 to 12,000 from transports. 1,200 mental patients from German hospitals. And they named the perpetrator: Albert Forster, Gauleiter, Reich SS Obergruppenführer. Member number 1,924, the boy from Firth who grew up in a prison and died in one, who traded banking for ideology, who climbed the ladder by being loyal and ruthless, who got everything he wanted until the regime collapsed, and then spent nearly 7 years learning what accountability looks like. They do it again. Forster's not special here. He's just another condemned man. The rope goes around his neck, the platform drops, his neck breaks, or it doesn't, and he strangles. The documents don't specify, they just give time of death. 1430 hours, 30 minutes from start to finish. And that's it. The man who controlled the fate of 2 million people dies in 30 minutes, reduced to a body on a slab, to a death certificate, to a file that gets sealed, to a story that gets buried until someone with access to the archives decides to dig. That's the real brutality of Albert Forster's execution. Not the rope, not the drop, not the physical mechanics of hanging. The brutality is in the arc, from Gauleiter to prisoner, from ruler to inmate, from protected to abandoned, from certainty to waiting, from power to helplessness. And all of it documented, all of it preserved, all of it sitting in archives waiting for historians to find. The mass graves at Piaśnica are marked now, memorials, names when they're known, unknown victim when they're not, estimated 12,000 to 14,000 dead. The largest killing site in Pomerania after Stutthof, sometimes called the Pomeranian Katyn, and Forster's name is on it, not literally, but historically, as the man who gave the orders, who created the conditions, who removed the restraints, who told ethnic Germans they could do whatever they wanted to Poles, and they did. Danzig becomes Gdańsk again. The borders shift, the population changes, new people move in, old wounds don't heal but they scar over. And for decades, Albert Forster is just a footnote, a name in history books, executed for war crimes. Dates vary depending on source. Then, 1999. Poland opens the archives. Schenk gets access, publishes in 2000. And suddenly the story's complete. The execution date's confirmed, the timeline's locked down, the documents are available, and we know. We know exactly what happened. We know the brutality wasn't in the hanging. It was in everything else. The 6 years of terror, the 12,000 to 14,000 murdered at Piaśnica alone, the 60,000 to 170,000 dead or expelled across Danzig, West Prussia, the systematic destruction of Polish identity, the camps, the deportations, the Germanization, the calculated cruelty of a mediocre man given absolute power, and then the nearly 7 years from arrest to execution, the trial, the verdict, the wait, the transfer to Mokotów, the denial of clemency, the walk to the gallows, the rope, the drop, the 30 minutes. The death certificate, the sealed file, the 2-year delay telling his wife, the 47 years of classification, that's the brutality. That's what makes Albert Forster's execution more brutal than you imagined, not because of what happened in the courtyard, because of what happened before. And because of what it took to finally know the truth. They knew the terrain. They knew their Polish neighbors. In the first months of the occupation, they became the ultimate agents of internal terror. Historians estimate their total strength in the Reichsgau Danzig West Prussia reached around 30,000 men. Many of them were Polish citizens who, with the collapse of Polish authority, seized the opportunity to settle old scores, enforce racial hierarchy, and claim spoils of war. Along with units of the SS and police, the Selbstschutz rounded up and executed thousands of Poles, especially those on the Sonderfahndungsbuch Polen, the special wanted list for Poland, which targeted the intelligentsia and community leaders. The sheer scale of the operation, the organized mass transports, the assembly line killings, the vast pits dug in the forests, required intense local coordination. When the main wave of mass killings subsided in the spring of 1940, the Selbstschutz was officially dissolved, but its members were often folded into the SS, the police, or the local German administration, taking their experience and their brutality with them. The trials that followed the war aimed to catch all the architects, not just the highest ranking. We already know that Richard Hildebrandt, the higher SS and police leader for Pomerania, and Max Henze, the police president of Bydgoszcz, were both sentenced to death by Polish courts and hanged on March 10, 1951, a year before Forster. But dozens of lower-level officials, camp commandants, and Selbstschutz leaders also faced the Supreme National Tribunal and regional courts. The court records, the same ones Dieter Schenk used to confirm Forster's execution, detail these numerous smaller trials. While the world focused on Nuremberg, Poland was conducting its own exhaustive, detailed legal process. The prosecution's case was built on 904 separate documents. Think about that number. Nearly 1,000 individual pieces of evidence, from Forster's personal correspondence and signed directives to German administrative records and eyewitness affidavits. The case wasn't built on rumor or confession. It was built on the meticulous, bureaucratic trail left by the Nazi regime itself. Forster's insistence on rapidly classifying Poles with even a hint of German ancestry into the Volkslist was politically motivated, as we discussed. He wanted to claim that his Gau was more German than Arthur Greiser's Warthegau. However, the internal administrative documents revealed a deeper, more sinister intent: the Germanization of Polish children. Records detail the forced removal of thousands of Polish children deemed racially suitable from their parents, often after their parents were executed or sent to concentration camps. These children were then placed in German families or state institutions to be raised as Germans, a calculated effort to erase their Polish identity and steal a generation. The trial meticulously cataloged these specific human rights abuses, proving that the crimes were not just mass murder, but the systematic destruction of a national group. The court heard from Polish railroad workers who recounted counting the number of transports carrying people to the execution sites in the forest of Piaśnica, often recognizing people they knew on the trains. They described the sealed wagons, the heavy guard details, and the frequent muffled sounds of gunfire from the woods. They testified to the vast numbers, the 10,000 to 12,000 people in the second wave of transports alone. The medical experts provided grim testimony regarding the exhumed remains, detailing the methods of execution and confirming the identity of some of the victims. Though most remained anonymous, their names lost to history in the thoroughness of the killers. Forster's execution was wrapped in the silence of the Cold War. His file was a departmental secret of the Polish security service, the Urząd Bezpieczeństwa, for 47 years. This was not unique. Many aspects of the post-war justice system in communist Poland were shrouded in secrecy, particularly those involving executions at prisons like Mokotów, which was also the site of numerous political executions. The long delay in informing his wife, Gertrude Forster, until 1954, 2 years after his death, was a cold act of bureaucratic cruelty. This lack of closure extended to the German public and historians as well. For decades, the true end of Albert Forster was a subject of speculation. Early historical works, like Raoul Hilberg's definitive The Destruction of the European Jews from 1961, incorrectly stated he was executed in 1948. The misinformation persisted for half a century. While the mass graves at Piaśnica were known and rudimentary memorials were erected by Polish locals immediately after the war, the full scope of the tragedy was often obscured or downplayed by the communist authorities, who preferred to focus on certain narratives. The 12,000 to 14,000 victims were not always fully researched or publicly discussed. The victims were often categorized broadly, and the specific identities and circumstances, the murdered Polish intelligentsia, the Kashubian community leaders, the Czech and German psychiatric patients, were sometimes overlooked in favor of a more generalized narrative of martyrdom. The opening of the Polish archives in 1999 was a watershed moment. Dieter Schenk's work, Hitler's Man in Danzig, published in 2000, finally confirmed the precise details of Forster's end. February 28, 1952, 1400 to 1430 hours, in the courtyard of Mokotów prison. It also provided the meticulously documented proof of his crimes, allowing historians to move past speculation and build a complete and undeniable picture of the terror in Danzig, West Prussia. Investigators, relying on the evidence preserved in the trial documents and new forensic techniques, continue to work to identify the remains of the 12,000 to 14,000 victims. To date, only a few hundred names have been confirmed, a number still chillingly small compared to the total dead. The site is often referred to as the Pomeranian Katyn because of the organized mass execution of the intelligentsia and community leaders, mirroring the Soviet massacre of Polish officers at Katyn. The 60,000 to 170,000 dead or expelled represents a near-total demographic and cultural catastrophe for the region's Polish and Jewish populations. His actions ensured that when the Red Army finally drove the Nazis out, the territory was fundamentally transformed, its cultural heart ripped out. It was a cold, efficient end to a man who had orchestrated a 6-year orgy of murder and deportation, as historian Christopher Browning described it. The ultimate cruelty wasn't the method of death, but the 4 years of isolated waiting, forcing a man to confront the certainty of his fate and the undeniable weight of his actions. It was justice delivered not as a spectacle, but as an inescapable bureaucratic finality, finally brought to light after decades of silence. His story is a powerful reminder that the true measure of evil is not the drama of the collapse, but the meticulous, calculated devastation that precedes it, and the long, hard work it takes to piece together the truth.